Hello, everyone. It's Kayla Thompson. Welcome back to Shared News. We are joined live today. I'm here with Hannah Fletcher. We're going to be talking about the season 4 live, well, not necessarily live reunion of Love is Blind. Before we jump into it, go ahead and give this video a like, subscribe to our channel, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you never miss any of our panels, any of our videos. But Love was late. We have to just talk about this and get it out the way. Love was late. Hannah, how are you feeling about yesterday? Because it was crazy.
Okay. Well, first of all, I just want to say that I'm very excited to be here with you. I'm excited to be able to talk about this. Love was late. Love made me mad yesterday. I rolled out my whole Sunday night. I was
mad.
I was mad. I was on my couch. I was ready. I had my wine. I was so excited. Took off all my makeup. I left TJ Maxx early to get home and make sure that I could get set up for this whole event. And then I sat there just clicking the button for an hour and a half just to find out that it's not happening, you know?
Listen, it was crazy, like crazy. I mean, me and my friends had a whole plan of like, we're going to watch it on FaceTime together. I was like watching something else with my dad that we've been waiting to watch together, but I left to go like, click on it right at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And I was like, okay, so what's happening? Sat there for an hour and a half looking at Twitter, like, what is going on? Super crazy. I'm going to ask you a little bit more about your the Netflix big fail. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But I did want to go ahead and make sure everyone knows, obviously, this is live. So with that being said, we want to join in on the conversation with everybody. So make sure when you can, leave us a question, leave us a comment. We're going to respond to it live and in person because we are actually live and in person today. It's not that hard, obviously, right here.
What a concept.
So as we go into each topic, what a concept of just being live, So yeah, give us a question, leave us a comment with each topic that we talk about. We're going to be getting into, of course, all the love triangles, the marriages, all the tea that was spilled. There was so much tea. But all right, let's get back to the Netflix big fail because it was pretty crazy. So I don't know if you heard this, Hannah, but obviously the whole service went down due to like high demand. That was clear. But the stock, I don't know if it was the stock or something, but they like, I guess not allegedly, but I guess kind of in imaginary numbers, lost like $3 billion worth of like, you know what I mean? Stock of people who were going to tune in live and watch this. I think it was around like 160 plus thousand people. I could be getting the numbers wrong. It was a lot. It was a lot of people that they lost. A lot of people were upset. What were your thoughts on just like, how did they get this wrong? They had one job, was to just stream it. Like what?
They had one job. I will say, so I'm not exactly sure where it took place. I live 20 minutes away from Raleigh Studios, and I was ready to just get in my car and just go down there and be like, what's going on? And be like, right. What are you people doing? Honestly, here's my thing. You have to do some type of test beforehand to make sure that you're capable of handling that. I know that if I'm not mistaken, the Chris Rock special that they filmed for Netflix was a live event and then obviously lives on Netflix now, but they didn't have any issues with that, I read. Right. So I'm like, I mean, granted, there probably was a bigger audience for Love is Blind, especially because this was such a juicy season, but still, like, do the tests, figure it out, make sure, I mean, and it's Netflix. Yeah. This is the king of streaming. Like, you have to live up to the reputation that you've laid for yourself at the end of the day. You just do. So I was very upset. Yeah. And honestly, like, I got all of my information not from Netflix, from all of the people, bless the people that were in attendance, the OG Netflix stars that were there to begin with. Like, I know Harry Jowsey, who's not even on Love is Blind. I tuned into his live. He's from Too Hot to Handle. I tuned into his live. He actually, was very nice with all of his fans and, like, showed us around and explained. He's like, we're just as much in the dark as you guys are. Hang in there. We'll do the best that we can to figure out what's going on for you guys. So I wish that we would have even had more updates from Netflix, too. I feel like every, half hour, we'd hear a tweet, and it was cryptic, and it didn't make any sense until they had to apologize.
Yeah. Right. And it was clear to me that it wasn't the production company or who was running Love is Blind, who was running the reunion. It was Netflix itself and their streaming ability and their broadcast ability across the board, because it was crazy. Like I was saying, me and my friends were trying to watch it together, and at some point we just obviously hung up and quit after an hour and a half. But then they were texting me like, oh, actually mine is working, is yours? And I'm like, no. Like, so for some people it was working, for other people it wasn't working. And then they, you know, did make that tweet this morning, I think, saying, hey, actually the episode is going to come out 12 p.m. PST. And my thing was like, why can't you guys just take it down and re-upload it right now? Because I guess to me, I'm just like, Netflix's deal is what we usually do is just straight upload an episodes of something or a piece of content. Whereas streaming something live like cable TV has done for decades is somehow just a whole different thing, obviously, and it's somehow incredibly hard for them to do. I guess they just don't do it obviously as often. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just like, I don't, in my mind, it's not that difficult, but I'm not in
I know. I view it as a
don't do
YouTube
any
video,
of that kind of
you
stuff,
know?
So
Yeah, I just feel like it's so you hit delete forever, you understand, and then try again. Like, but I guess it can't be that easy when you're dealing with such a huge capacity and caliber of a project. But who knows? Who knows?
Exactly. Who knows? But they made it. They put it up, and the question is, was it worth the wait? So we're going to get into all of the highlights from this reunion and recap it with you guys. Like I said, we are live, so we want to have a conversation with y'all. So make sure you're giving us any of your thoughts and asking any questions, and we'll answer them live. All right, Hannah. So let's just go in order of kind of like how they were in the reunion episode. So let's start with Kwame and Chelsea and Micah, I guess. Yeah. The Lachey's definitely kind of opened that can of worms right away with their love triangle. What were your thoughts on that segment and kind of the way that, the three of them, I guess, explained it?
Okay, so I want to say, and this goes for Kwame and Chelsea, but also for the rest of like the couples. I know the last time that you and I touched base on everybody, it was kind of like we were happy to see, we were shocked. Like I was soft in who I shipped, right? I didn't really feel any type of way in particular about anybody. But after seeing this reunion, I love Kwame and Chelsea together. Actually, I feel like I feel like he grew up a lot more. I feel like his maturity level has risen. I think that she's actually brought the best out in him. Not that the best didn't exist before, but I think he took a few extra years of maturity there that was assisted just by meeting Chelsea and just by dealing with her. The way that they opened up the love triangle with Micah, oh man, it got messy. They went right for it. And it was just, I think I tip my hat to Chelsea. Chelsea handled it so well, the way that she spoke, and she was so, I feel like Chelsea and even Bliss had this in common. Like anything that they said, it was factual. Any opinion that they shared was extremely mature. It was calculated, but it wasn't calculated to try to soften the blow of the other person. It was just calculated because they're just mature. And hearing Micah talk about everything like that, I think that she does realize what she caused and what she did. And I don't know. I just feel like Micah was like a sad puppy all night long. I really do. I feel like Micah was definitely eating some crow throughout this whole thing. And, but I will tip my hat. Like Nick Lachey said, to Irina, same goes for Micah. Like she sat there and she did her part. She fulfilled her contract, and she gave her 2 cents as needed and whatnot. She showed up, literally. Yeah. What do you think about the love triangle?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. Well, the first thing that I have to just point out was I found it interesting and a little weirdly placed that they showed us a clip from filming that we'd never seen of Chelsea and Micah talking about the incident from the pool party at the honeymoon, portion of the season. Because I just felt like why didn't you just put that in the episode? Because it felt like we're going backwards to catch you guys up on something that you didn't know happened. And it's just like, that is one of my issues with the way that they produce the show is like, it just feels a little disorganized sometimes. And I'm like, we didn't have, like, you guys could have just put in the episode and then we talked about it here and made the point of, now Chelsea, now that you've actually seen what was going on between Micah and Chelsea, what were your thoughts? Because you guys had that conversation. You know what I mean? It just felt weird. But
Yeah.
I will say I agree with you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'll say this and then I think it's going to add to what you're going to say. It was very integral. Sure. Like, I thought that Chelsea was just blinders on, unaware. I was like, wow, I hope to God one day that I can be that mature that I literally just don't care about anything. It was a big part that they left out. They'd already kind of squashed it and put it to bed and addressed it. And go back to you, what you were going to say. But yeah.
No, for sure. Because you're right. I'm going to piggyback off what you said. It's like, because to me, my issue is, well, you guys could have hammered in the right point, which was like, well, yeah, Micah, you kind of made it seem like, oh, you diminished it. When really, when you watch it, it's like, no, y'all was flirting. Like, you guys were flirting, and it was disrespectful. So I don't know, but I agree with you. Chelsea is such the bigger person, and I must say, I think, well, let me say this too before I say my thought. What I did respect was the way that Kwame and Chelsea, clearly, they were kind of making nods that their edit was off. Like, there was a lot of things that weren't shown between them, and Kwame even posted on his Instagram, you know, I get why you guys feel the way you feel about us, but here's what the cameras didn't catch. You know, here's the days that we weren't filming. And it was a lot of them having fun, having a good time together, genuinely looking really happy. Whereas a lot of the time the camera caught Kwame, we said it, he looked like he was held hostage. He was giving,
he did.
You know,
he
somebody
did.
save me most of the time. And so, yeah, maybe it's one of those things where their edit was just off. I mean, a part of me feels like he still was a little unsure because there was just so much of that you can't edit out. Like, I don't know if he's just being a little awkward, but the way he would look sometimes, it just, you know what I mean? But I will say, I do think differently of them as a couple than I did when I was watching their wedding and watching them on the season. I think a year has gone by. You can definitely see that they're very comfortable with each other, and they look happy. So
yeah,
hey, good on them.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so
I agree. They're cute.
Yeah,
I like them.
any final thoughts on Kwame and Chelsea before we go to Irina?
Honestly, I think we covered everything with those two. Like I said, I think that I will say to what you said about the edit, I love how Chelsea handled that. She just gave one brief, quick, mature, calculated sentence stating that the narrative that was pushed was not their narrative. And bing, bang, boom, done. I love it.
Like that?
She did. And
that
from an
good.
audience's perspective, like, especially, you know, that people don't understand from the perspective of being in a reality show. Like, you have to think about what they went through, and if you're going to pass judgment, you have to be able to let them at least have an opportunity to clear their name or to clear the air on things, or at least give the backstory as to why something happened. And I'm glad that I feel like this cast has done that collectively. I feel like they're kind of breaking that fourth wall that exists. You know, they're addressing the fact of like a bad edit or the edit for the purposes of telling the story, not telling the truth. And I'm glad that she said that. I am. I like that.
That's good, Hannah. And you know what you just said reminded me of another thought that I had, that I really liked Kwame being able to clear up the thing with his name. And, oh, you know, I did say I wanted to, maybe I should go in saying my name is Alex, because that is one of his first names. But they left out the part where he said, but I'm going to stick with Kwame because I love my name and I've always been called Kwame. And, you know, I was thinking maybe I should go with Alex to just kind of go with the experiment of it and make it easy so no one knows that I'm black or, you know, whatever. But I like that he said that, because I was one of those people that was a little bit judgmental of him kind of saying that. But it goes to show you that, yeah, it goes back to the edit a lot of the times. And even Zack kind of said it. There's maybe 10% of what actually happen that we see, and there's 90 that we don't see.
Exactly.
So yeah, speaking of Zack, let's go into probably one of my favorite segments. I'm not gonna lie, was
Oh,
the
yeah.
Zack and Bliss and
Yeah.
Irina bit, because I felt vindicated by this. I was like, yes, Zack and Bliss. They're
I
still
know.
married. They're one of my favorite couples at this point of the franchise. I just love their love story. I think it's so beautiful, and they look so much more in love. You know,
They do.
anyone who ever
really
questioned
do.
them, you can't question them at this point. They're so perfect together. But I loved how much of a united front they were across the board with just, I guess, mainly Irina. So let's talk about it. Let me know, what were your thoughts on the bomb that Zack dropped that he felt like Irina came on the show to be famous?
The bomb dropped, my jaw dropped. I loved that he said that. I loved that he said that. You know, I will say
Me
also,
too.
Nick Lachey said at one point, he did at the end of that whole segment acknowledge Irina and said, you know, thanks for coming on and at least like taking the blows. You know, I do love that Irina joined in. Everybody wanted her there. I mean, because they wanted to see what she would have to say. So I'm glad that she was there to be able to talk to Zack and Bliss and for them to really have that moment of closure. And I love that he said that she came on to be famous. But Zack and Bliss, again, like, they're so mature as a couple. What I love the most is like how Zack ended it with, like, he's saying to her, he's like, you know, I don't doubt that you have the ability to basically become a good person and that you will one day. I love that he takes the high road, and Bliss does too. And I just think that those are the types of people that we need to look up to in society more. You know, not the people that fish for the pettiness and the drama. Look at what Irina brought and gave to him, and look at the high road that he's capable of taking. You know, I think that is so fantastic. So I love that he had to
totally
that
agree.
opportunity to set it straight with her. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And I think, I mean, yeah, you're right. The way that they took the high road was just so mature. And even Bliss being like, you know what, I'm going to say this, and I don't really want to talk about it anymore because it's been a year and I don't even care. Like,
she
this
said
is my
that,
husband.
and I said,
this was a small bump in the road of our love story, okay? So it is what it is. But I do want to unpack a little bit of the things that they were saying, because I just found it really interesting. I think one of the main things that they brought up that I was like, what? Was the fact that, well, Nick Lachey actually brought the tea. I was like, okay, Nick with the receipts. I was like, okay,
I know.
Points, Nick.
You could tell where Nick was super interested, you know, and I feel like at the beginning he was really in. I feel like he was at Vanessa. He was like, you take my gun, I'll take Bliss, okay? And that whole entourage. I think that's...
Yeah, that was true.
Yeah.
That was true.
Yeah.
No, so Nick basically was like, okay, I heard that there were some DMs being sent and some messages being sent. And so basically Irina sent a DM to Bliss that she dodged a bullet when they had come back home from the Mexico trip. Text Bliss, DM Bliss, you dodged a bullet. Then at the same time, text Zack, oh, I hope it works out with you and Bliss. And so Bliss was kind of like, I hear you that, you know, your apology, your excuse of your mental health, whatever. But at this point, it's like, yeah, you were being vindictive. You were being malicious in what you were doing. Like, I don't know if you can excuse that. And so that's why I'm like, when it comes to Irina's excuse or her apology or her kind of, you know, defending herself, how did you feel about that? Because it fell kind of flat for me.
It fell flat. Here's what I don't appreciate. Mental health is such an mental health is such an issue that society has nowadays. It's become a lot more destigmatized, but there still is a stigma that surrounds it, and I never want somebody to feel dismissed if they actually do suffer with mental health issues or conditions. Now, with Irina, I'm not saying that she doesn't have anything surrounding mental health issues. I'm not saying that she does. I'm not saying that she doesn't. I don't know. We don't know that. What we do know is, like what Bliss said, regardless of whether or not it's a mental health issue, it's a panic attack, at the end of the day, please don't go and be a public person and use that as potentially a weapon or something to shield and hide behind. and take that away from anybody who does actually have mental health issues or conditions. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand how the two are related. I think that it's kind of a cop-out, and I wish that I think Zack or Bliss said this too, like, whoever said it, they were very much like, look, you just have to be mature, you just have to take the high road. Hiding behind something isn't good. Owning up to what you did wrong and owning up to how you made your mistake, that's going to allow you to grow. That's the mature way to do it. Recognize that you messed up and move on. That's nobody can get mad at somebody who owns up to what they did, right? I mean, you can still get mad, but at least that person's owning up. You can't ask them to really do anything. I can't go back in the past and change it, but try to acknowledge it and move forward. That's what I wish she would have done.
Yes. Everything you said, retweet. Like, that's exactly how I felt. And that was Bliss that said that. Like, I wish that you would just take responsibility for what you did and what you said. Like, I get it. You went through a panic attack or you had this mental issue, but listen, it'll help you grow if you just own it. That's what you did and that's what you said and you were wrong. But she was very defensive. So let's take actually we got a comment come in and it's about exactly what we're talking about. So let's take it now. So Grace J says, Zack and Bliss being the one to choose some violence in this reunion had so much impact because he and Bliss have been nothing but gracious in all of the interviews. Zack was so genuinely emotional. Yeah, I agree. And like I was saying before, I think that, you know, them allowing, they were being mature, but they weren't pussyfooting around and being nice. They were like, listen, no, you were not there for the right reasons. Like, you know what you did. Zack kind of was like, you know the things that you did that weren't shown. Like, I'm not even going to bring it up, but you know. And, you know, I think it was fair for them to be, like, upset and allow that to show. So I'm glad they chose some violence. What do you think, Hannah?
I'm very glad that they stood up for themselves and they set the record straight. It would be so easy to just, especially in a setting like that, especially like it was supposed to be live, regardless, they were live in front of people, right? So it's so easy to kind of just be like, let me just go sit down and just get by, you know? And I'm glad that they didn't just get by. I'm glad that they set the record straight, and I'm glad that they handled it with class. You can handle anything if you handle it with class, but you have to have class. You can't act like you have it. There's a difference.
Come on, Hannah, you are coming out here with so many gems. I totally agree. I think, again, Zack and Bliss were like class acts this whole
Very
reunion.
much
They
so.
were probably my favorite part because they rode the perfect line of like, I'm going to give, honestly, they gave the fans and the viewers what they wanted, but they didn't lose any of their respect or class or grace through all of that. And they ended things with, Irina, I just hope you become a better person from this. And I forgive you. And I was like, clap it up for them. I love them. I root for them. I wish them the best. All right. So let's talk about Paul and Micah, because these two at this reunion, I was just kind of like, okay, there was just so much that was talked about and so much that was uncovered. So let me just kick it over to you, Hannah. What was like one of the biggest jaw drops for you during this segment? Because there was so much tea that was spilled, including some things that Zack had to say. But what were your thoughts?
There was a lot that happened during this particular part. I'll be honest, half of it I was confused, half of it I was not. I would actually have to kind of like pause and rewind to try to hash it out. Because a lot of their tea got spilled that didn't necessarily happen on camera, I feel like. So I think that made it a little bit confusing to be a viewer, because you were like, wait, what? That's why I would have to rewind and kind of go back and be like, okay, this is actually what they're saying. This happened. And I mean, I'm attuned to what's going on with Love is Blind very closely, but even like the video of Paul allegedly with the bridesmaid, I didn't know that was a thing.
I know.
That was a whole thing, and Vanessa was eating it up. Vanessa was in on that one. She was loving that. But overall, I don't feel like they actually resolved anything, which makes me sad, because I think that the whole point of the reunion should be to kind of like at least find some sort of resolution, at least come to a compromise. I'm not asking for them to walk out holding hands. They're probably not going to, nor is that really even what the audience wants at this point necessarily. But I think that the whole point of the reunion and putting yourself kind of on blast and being in front of so many different people is to be able to compromise. And I don't feel like they reached any resolution, any type of compromise. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they never talk again, which makes me sad, because, like, at the end of the day, if you share any time with somebody, in my opinion, hopefully you'd be able to talk to that person, especially when you're almost trauma bonded by being on a reality show. But I don't think they hit any resolution. What do you think, though?
Yeah, I mean, I have so many thoughts about this segment. I think that my main issue, you hit the nail on the head by saying I felt like it was unresolved, and I felt dissatisfied by this segment because they kind of missed, they skimmed over a point that I think they could have really honed in on, which was like, oh, you guys got back together after the show. Like, Micah actually said that with one of her first responses to something that they asked her about, you know, maybe why Paul said no, and we'll talk about the mother piece because I want to address that. But when she said that, I was like, Nick, Vanessa, catch that and dive into that, because to me that's interesting. When you break up and then get back together, it's like, well, why'd you guys get back together? How did that happen? Why'd you break up again? Why wasn't that talked about, asked about? I felt like Vanessa really dug her heels into, and I think she was a little bit biased for some reason, that Paul never told Micah, like, the whole piece about her not being potentially a good mom, or him not seeing her as a mother, which was weird to me. And I'll say this and I'll shut up, but it's just like, it's weird to me because I'm like, why are y'all trying to like gaslight me or something? Because we just saw why Micah, maybe, I'm not trying to say she's not going to be a good mom, hear me, I'm just saying, you guys just finished showing a whole segment of her and Irina being mean girls for the whole first, like, 6 episodes of the show. So why are you, like, you see where I'm connecting the dots of, like, we saw that Micah is not mature enough yet, potentially, to be, so you're trying to press Paul to, like, say something where it's just like, it doesn't really need to be said. And then the second point of, like, you know, well, why didn't you just demand that from her? I'm like, and he's like, I'm not gonna make somebody that they're not. It doesn't make any sense, you know. Clearly this frustrated me, but
I know.
Tell me what you think about that.
I agree with you completely. Let me see here. I saw it as Paul was trying to convey she was not a good person. We just got a comment here. I saw it as Paul was trying to convey she was not a good person. Yeah. I agree. I agree with your comment. At the end of the day, here's my thing. First of all, I think that the hosts had an agenda that I don't know if they could shake the agenda or not. But at the end of the day, if you're going, there's a difference between having a reunion where it's almost like a moderator relationship that they should be having with the cast, where you take what they say and then you go off of it. If you have an agenda that is so pertinent, then almost just treat it more like an interview. You know what I mean? Then don't have the kumbaya kind of setup like that. So I feel like they almost lost it altogether until the end of the segment. Then she goes, wait, you guys dated? What? And then, like, that was a whole thing at the end of this whole portion. And I don't know. I mean, I agree. I think that she was just too immature to be a mom. I mean, she's what, mid-20s? I mean, I'm mid-20s. I know that right now I'm not saying that her and I have the same maturity level.
Yeah, I'm not ready.
But I'm not ready for a cat. I can't even handle my cat, you know? Like, I'm good for a little bit, you know? I have a lot of other things to focus on. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I just think that it was just such a weird segment overall. And I don't know, man. I'm at a loss for words when it comes to these two.
Yeah. No, I think the one person that kind of was like, and maybe, I don't know, maybe I just love Zack at this point, but I really feel like he was kind of the audience, because he's just like, Micah, okay, can I say something? Micah,
yeah,
you know what you were saying about Paul behind the scenes. You were kind of talking trash about her. Like, you talked bad about him one time. I drove you from whatever. I don't know what he was talking about then. I was like, when did this happen? Why didn't they ask a deeper question? You know, they were asking him because then Zack said, you know, women who were filming with us would say that you never really had an intention to marry him. So that was a feeling that he got, and he was trying to defend, what we all kind of understand from what we all saw, that yeah, like, I don't know, Micah, you're kind of coming for blood, or trying to, I think what he meant maybe was more like you're trying to make Paul the villain here. And I think Vanessa was as well, to be honest. But yeah, what did you think when Zack was kind of bringing those receipts out?
I liked that Zack was saying that. I think what I interpreted, and I could be wrong, but what I interpreted is like when you are filming, you get shuttled around to stay together for the most part. So for them, it maybe like was in a shuttle or something like that. Obviously not on camera, but he was trying to bring up the points of the behind the scenes, which I think was kind of nice to be able to lean into, because again, we see 10% maybe of what actually goes on. So it's kind of nice to hear the dirty laundry of what goes on behind the edit, behind the camera, that when the cameras aren't rolling, because they're still interacting with one another, they have to be, to a certain extent.
Right.
So I appreciated that Zack kind of stepped in and said that. And I also I want to say, I think that this is where, I think Vanessa had a few different biases throughout the evening, and I think that this is where that really started to show through. And I think that if you want to moderate in a successful way with getting the root of everything that you're looking to get out of the cast, I think that the moderator should be extremely objective, not biased in any way, shape, or form. And I think that she was very, very much against Paul. She definitely doesn't like Paul. It's obvious. And I mean, at the end of the day, I think that Micah's trying to be a better person. I feel like Micah did grow on the show. I don't think that she grew enough nor quick enough, especially when you compare her to somebody like Irina, who's running around behind cabinets and islands like a squirrel. I don't know what she was doing in those clips that they were showing from earlier in the show. I was laughing. But yeah, ridiculous. I didn't appreciate the bias that was evident, not a fan.
I think, no, I wasn't a fan of the way that she handled that. And I wasn't a huge fan of the way that she handled the Jackie, Josh, and Marshall segment. So let's just get into that now, because this was probably the second. No, I think Paul and Micah was the second most frustrating. This was my first. Because the biggest L for me was the fact that they did not press Jackie and Josh to be there in person. It is completely ridiculous. It is such a cop-out. It is so like, and I think that maybe this is where the bias started, of not just Vanessa, but maybe potentially the show being like, well, we should celebrate that a couple came out of this. That's fine. I think that's separate. We could have still done that with them being there in person, but y'all letting them cop out by just having a FaceTime with Vanessa and not giving Marshall like the ability to face them and have a conversation back and forth was just so unfair. And so back to the point you were making about Vanessa being biased, I think even in the interview she had with them, she didn't she did not hold Jack. I can't even speak. She didn't even hold Jackie accountable at all, in my opinion. Okay, I said a lot. Just tell me what you thought about this.
No, I agree. I mean, I'm echoing everything that you're saying. She didn't hold her accountable. I know more about Rick the Fish than I do about how she actually felt about Marshall at this point. Like, I'm so done. I'm so frustrated.
Right.
At least come on and face the music. You can't tell me Netflix didn't want them there. I don't even know if the reunion is part of their contract. If it is, did they breach it? Like, that's even a whole different issue. I think it is. I would think it is. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not in the event of if you do get dragged so badly that you just can't collect yourself to be together. I don't know. But at the end of the day, again, it's poor Marshall. And like, I just feel bad for him. I wish that he could have been able to say his piece and like, and try to get answers from Jackie. Cause even Marshall's tried to take the high road. And I feel like Vanessa kind of squashed him taking the high road. Cause he was like, well, at the end of the day, she was kissing another man after a breakup. She was like, well, aren't you upset that she cheated or whatever? She was trying to interject words into the situation. And Marshall was like, look, it doesn't matter at this point. That's not the relevant point of what's going on. He's bringing it down to brass tacks and boiling it down to what actually matters. He's looking and saying, okay, regardless, cheating or not, not a good way to handle the situation. It wasn't correct. And I feel like Vanessa didn't see that.
We were all saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
and let me actually, because you just kind of gave me a perfect segue to answer this comment from Monty. He said, okay. I'm convinced Vanessa did not watch the episodes. She didn't press Jackie on anything. She was so unprepared. Okay, actually my thought is that she was prepared, but she was prepared in the wrong way. And I think Vanessa or the producers or whoever were like out of touch of what we want to be, what questions we want answered as the fans. And I don't get why they missed the mark on this, because this was a live event that y'all just shot yesterday. You've seen the social media response. You've seen what the majority of people are saying online. It wasn't about she cheated or whatever. It was just Jackie's whole attitude and the way that she disrespectfully treated her relationship with Marshall when it came to Josh coming into the picture. Like, that's what needed to be unpacked. But everybody just wants to be so nice. And I'm like, you can be respectful, but still hold people accountable and get the answers that the fans want. And see, not just answers, but like, you want to feel a little vindicated by the situation, because we all were like, we saw what was going on screen. Like, that was just wrong. So let's take one more comment. Fight for a Cause says, by the way, catch the fact that they're saying Jackie's texts were legit and Vanessa straight up minimized it to unkind words. Yeah, I think first of all, let me just go ahead and say this. Vanessa minimized a lot, because another thing that I wanted to say, and then I want to kick it over to you, Hannah, for your thoughts, was Marshall was kind of, and we'll go back to the text because I do want to talk about the text, but Marshall said something where it was clear that he felt slighted that they weren't there. And Vanessa kind of said, well, wouldn't you understand how she feels of maybe why she didn't want to? And I'm like,
she even said she's like, of the girl you were supposed to marry or something like that. I was like,
yeah, I'm like, excuse me. First of all, no, because Irina, like y'all said, Irina showed up, and Irina knew that Zack was gonna put on his lawyer pants and read her for filth. So why are you trying to, like, it was so like distasteful and like so unaware of what was going on. But Hannah, what were your thoughts on this comment about like the text and that whole thing? Because they did bring that up.
So I know that there were text messages that were leaked, and I personally am kind of a little bit confused about that. So if you have some insight that you can clarify. I heard that there were text messages leaked, but I'm unclear, and I was still unclear during the reunion. Sure. Is this it was text messages between her and a friend about Marshall, right?
Yes.
Is
okay,
that what it
so
was?
I think that Fight for a Cause is actually maybe talking about a couple things from my understanding. So I think the texts, the texts that were leaked, at least the ones that I'm aware of, are the ones where Jackie was talking to her friends and was saying that Marshall was, essentially she was saying Marshall was a little sweet and had some sugar in his tank, and he would do things like twerk on the bed, and she told him, I'm cool off that. You don't need to be doing that. And she was like, I just don't want y'all coming to my wedding and saying that, you know, he's soft or he's sweet. And she also mentioned that she talked about it in one of her interviews and all hell broke loose. Basically, production was like, you can't say that. And so she flipped the script for the show because she was like, I'm on a show. That's essentially what she was saying.
Okay.
And I think the other piece of like unkind words was that, but then also that's making me think of another thing that Vanessa brought up of like the whole allegation that Marshall said derogatory things and wanted to be engaged to someone else because of the ring. Just I don't know. I feel like they harped on things that were like, why are we harping on that? I mean, I get it, but it was just. Yeah, so hopefully that kind of clears it up. It was a little still all over the place.
It's just, I felt like it was all extremely unnecessary. I feel like even with the text messages leaking and whatnot, like Jackie was halfway out halfway through the show. You know, is that just a reach for relevancy at that point, just to remind you that she was a part of the show because we've moved on, Marshall's moved on? Like, I don't know. And then even the ring too. I know a couple of people are commenting about the ring. The fact that she wouldn't give the ring back, I look at it this way. I don't want something that isn't intended for me, especially if it was given to me as something that was supposed to have some type of meaning. An engagement ring is an engagement ring. I have an engagement ring right now. It's a princess cut that my mom got me for Valentine's Day. That was given to me because it's pretty. It's not an engagement ring in that sense. If an engagement ring is coming from somebody that got down on a knee and was vulnerable and said that they are declaring their love and want to spend the rest of their life with you, why would you still have that? Why would you want to have that? And if you're going to have it just to hawk it for the money, then you shouldn't even be getting married in the first place, because marriage requires a certain level of maturity, and clearly you're not there. You know?
Clearly you're not there. Listen, Daily NN, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name, but girl, totally agree. Nobody believed it when Jackie said he wanted the ring back to give to somebody else. And to her point, I'm like, Jackie was just being vindictive at that point with trying to keep the ring. Just because that's my ring, you know? Like, I'm not, I still have it. And it's like, for what? Just so he can't have it? Just so, it's just weird. Also, sidebar, I thought it was odd that it wasn't production's ring and that she actually still does have it. I found that really weird because in Bachelor world, we know that you have to be together for over 2 years to keep the ring. If you break up within that time span, you have to give the ring back to the production because they bought that ring. You didn't buy it. So I found that really weird. But yeah, I was just like, Jackie, no one believes you. Like, Marshall was not worried about anybody else. And again, I just felt so bad for Marshall having to defend himself and kind of answer to all of this, to a video of like all these allegations, just bam, bam, bam from her, and just be like, okay, so I guess I just have to sit here and defend myself to, you know what I mean? It was just weird.
Yeah. Well, and the
Someone
other
said
idea
should have
of,
demanded she returned it immediately. That's
I know they should have.
Sorry, go ahead.
Two things. One, kind of back to the ring. What I think is kind of interesting is like think about being Jackie. Say she marries Josh. Mm-hmm. I hope he uses that ring to propose at that point. Like, at least reduce, reuse, recycle. You know what I mean? Like, what, then what? You're with somebody, now you have another ring? Like, think about future down the pipeline. Even if she doesn't get married to Josh, she gets married to someone else. What? Do you think another dude would really be happy about having a ring that was from a previous engagement that didn't work out just sitting in your jewelry box?
Exactly.
Like, that would cause a little bit of tension.
How does Josh feel about that?
Yeah.
Weird.
Nobody ever.
I'm curious.
We couldn't ask Josh because that was a part of the 5-minute recording, you know, that they sent in.
They weren't
it
there.
just makes me mad.
Yeah.
And you know what? Even like with the derogatory allegation and everything, that's pretty harsh to accuse, especially with no evidence. I don't believe that Marshall personally did that. Again, we have no evidence, but I wouldn't think so, judging by what I've seen of his character. Also, if you have nothing to hide and if you don't have any claims that you've made that you feel some type of way about, you would probably be there in person. That's kind of the way that I look at it too. Exactly. Why can't you sit down and actually look him in the eye, both of you?
It's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I think, well, actually, let's take what Grace J said because I don't want to forget this. She's clearing something up for us. LIB cast members from previous seasons said they get to keep their rings, I think, as a gift, even if they say no at the altar, which is very interesting. That's very interesting to me. Thank you for that. Yeah, piece of information, because I would assume that they would take the rings back. But
I would think my life living on replay would be enough of a memory. I wouldn't need the ring at that point, you know.
Give me that ring. Or if you want to give me a gift, give me the money for the ring and we'll split it or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, just to go back to your point about the derogatory situation, I think that was one of the interesting things to me about Jackie and Marshall's relationship, because from what I understood of what he said at the reunion was it was a tit for tat kind of joking, but we're kind of jabbing each other conversations, which I think some couples can do sometimes. And it's like clearly from the result of it, it's not something smart to do, to make insulting kind of comments, because there's some clearly some tension in there of like, she was calling him sweet, she was calling him soft or whatever, and so he jabbed back with, well, you have like a hard jawline, you could have been a man before for all I know, which he obviously, you know, took responsibility for, that was wrong, but he never said a derogatory term. But I guess Jackie is reducing it to, you called me a derogatory term, but maybe it was just obviously something that he you know, characterized and said to her. But my thought on that, and I want to know your thoughts, is just like, I think it's just something where you push the bear, it's pushing back. You know, you're poking, and you get poked back, and you poke at each other, and then you say something that's like, dang, I shouldn't have said that. That was so messed up. I know I shouldn't have said that. But it's like, y'all are riling each other up and not, you know, being kind and respectful to each other, and something like that was said.
Yeah. If you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen. And also, you know that she probably established a more aggressive, joking manner out of the two of them. Marshall not really maybe having that. Probably is trying to play along and adapt because he was giving his all to Jackie during his time with her. And I could easily see where Jackie, she's tough, right? Jackie reminds me of like all the girls in high school that would be like, they were the tough girls in gym class, you know, and they'd go up and play with all the guys. Like she's tough, you know, she's definitely a tough girl. And like for Marshall, he was in the marching band. Like he's got like that kind of, you know, just a sweet demeanor to him, more meek, more stereotypically docile. Yeah. So I feel like she would probably establish that more like aggressive playfulness, and that's maybe Marshall trying to like play back, defend himself, him just trying to change maybe a piece of himself just to try to get along with her, which obviously didn't work out. And I'm glad that he owned his comment there about the comment.
Mistake,
but it's
Anaya says apparently people are sending death threats according to Jackie, so that's why they couldn't show up. What were your thoughts on that, Hannah? I know you saw it too.
Okay. Apparently people were sending death threats according to Jackie, so that's why they couldn't show up. I feel like that's not true, or if it is true, I mean, people get death threats all the time at this point. It's just a sad level of society, especially when you have any status of celebrity, you're gonna get a death threat. That's just unfortunately what happens. I really don't think personally though that that would really inhibit her from showing up. But you can't tell, if she wanted to be there, she could have called Netflix or called her manager or whomever, called a producer. Listen. I'm sure you stay in touch with the producers. I know you do. And call a producer and say, I want to be there. Let's fatten up security a little bit. Help me make it happen. I've received a lot of death threats. It could easily be squashed. They could have gotten her in if she wanted to be there. Not saying she didn't get death threats. Let me be clear. But yeah.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Right. Because of what I was going to say, I was going to read what Fight for a Cause says. They said Micah and Irina got death threats and they still showed up. And I was like, I'm sure even somebody like Zack might have gotten a death threat.
I'm sure.
From the mistake that he made. Because people out here are just, they're just crazy like that, to be that ridiculous and that disrespectful and that outright wrong to be sending death threats to anybody. We've talked about that here on our channel, that no matter what anybody does, they don't deserve to hear that, right? But, you know, I'm sorry, I kind of feel like it's a cop-out. Like, I think that, and I think production could have done a better job with being like, nope, it's in the contract, you have to be here physically. Because I'm sure what happened was maybe they found a loophole of like, well, we'll be a part of the reunion, but we're not going to be there. And so I think it's like you press them a little bit, like, yeah, but, you know, we're going to shine a light on you and your man. You guys have been together for a year. You live together. But, you know, for Marshall, I think it's fair. I just found it so unfair for him not to get that opportunity for closure to say what he said at the end, which I loved, which was like, at the end of the day, you know, this you versus me thing needs to die, because that's my issue with Jackie is she's like, I got all these receipts and blah, blah, blah. She's been saying online. And I think even she released something today, which I didn't get a chance to see yet. But it's like, well, if you're so big and bad, then why can't you? I'm sorry, y'all. This is really frustrating me. It's like, why can't you just come and face the music then? Like, you're going to be fine. No one is actually going to hurt you. Like, please, give me a break. So I I don't know. I found the whole thing frustrating. Let's read what Kathy G had to say on this. I didn't see Jackie as tough. I saw her as wounded without the tools to express what she wanted with confidence. So she put on a tough front, but that's just my observation. Actually, Kathy, I feel like you kind of encapsulated that really, really well, and I'm glad that was one of the last comments for this segment of that, because I think that's a good way of seeing it. I think Jackie,
well said. Yeah,
some things to work on. What were your thoughts, Hannah?
I agree. I think that Kathy just summed it up completely. To wrap up this segment here, the way that was phrased is completely correct. You know, I agree. Yeah. I simply agree.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's get to something happier. Let's get back to our married couples. I actually want to go ahead and shout out Brett and Tiffany, because I feel like they were just kind of skipped over a lot on this reunion. And first of all, they looked so gorgeous. They were like glowing. They just were like royalty on that couch together. I loved Tiffany's white dress, the hair, Brett and his special Jordans he had on. I mean, they were just super clean. And obviously they're still married, still doing very well. And something that I love that they did during this whole reunion was show us clips and videos of where all the married couples have been, what they've been up to in the past year. Even to the point of them vacationing together, which I thought was super cute. So what were some like highlights for you of that part, Hannah?
First of all, I agree. I think that they were definitely skipped over. I know that they kind of they addressed them first straight out the gate at the beginning of the special, which I kind of figured they were going to, because like, let's go to the people that have absolutely nothing, you know, to other than just positivity surround. There's always one couple that gets like a solid edit, and that's them for this season. So I'm glad that they were able to like talk to them and kick it off on a good note. And then, I don't know, like you said, they look so happy. I loved being able to see inside the lifestyles of the couples and to see their homes and stuff like that. That's such a personal thing, like showing your home. Like, imagine if I just showed all of you my apartment. Like, ooh, it's so personal.
It would feel so close.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'd have to clean. But, you know, it's just... It's such a personal thing. So I love the deep dive into being able to see what's going on, and I just love that all the couples seem like they're genuinely happy. If any of these guys get divorced, I mean, I know nothing when it comes to love then, and I'm gonna have to start from scratch. I feel like they're all really solid, which is so nice to see.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I like I like what you reminding me of the first section of the episode where they made the joke about, you know, Tiffany being asleep, and they played that clip again. And then, you know, fast forward to the home videos when Brett was like waking her up from being asleep on the couch. It was like, so it was perfect full circle.
She goes,
and she just woke up so like a little princess. She's like, oh, hi. Like,
I know.
It was so cute. But yeah, even like for me, I think for me, seeing inside Kwame and Chelsea's apartment really was like, oh wow, like they're cool, they're good together. Like it's smooth, it's comfortable, you know. First of all, their apartment was, I mean, their high-rise condo,
so nice,
gorgeous.
Oh my goodness,
you know,
her little
Chelsea's
pink
got
corner.
Her pink corner, yeah. Exactly.
I love it.
We are like right here.
I love it.
I'm not gonna lie though, girl, Zack and Bliss are probably my like MVP favorite couple of this season. Tiffany and Brett are like another section of just like royalty and Love is Blind. But I love Zack and Bliss so much. But I'm sorry, I have to say this. I had to watch their segment on mute because I could not listen to Zack sing. I couldn't do it. I was like physically cringing so much I couldn't even watch their like clips and moments together because Zack I was like, why are we doing this again? Oh God. But Bliss clearly loves her some Zack because she's just looking in his eyes lovingly as he sings so pitchy and so off key. And I was just so like, cute. No one can tell me Bliss is like not in love with this man. I mean, because how? But
Bliss is blissful, you know?
Bliss is blissful.
I'm so glad that you said that you watched it on mute, because like when I started hearing the singing, I said, "Oh no." And then the clip is gorgeous. It's a beautiful montage. No shade to Zack. He's so cute.
Is. Oh my god.
But yeah, awesome. No, him and his songs, he just cracks. What I love the most though is like that's even better to me than a guy that can sing, in a way, because like a guy that can sing has had training, probably knows he can sing. Zack's like, you know what? Let's go for it. I know I can't sing. Like, I mean, I know I'm pitchy. I know I'm a little
I can't sing.
It's even better. It takes,
baby,
I feel like, even a
I love you
level.
And I wrote a song. Yeah.
Again.
He's like, I'm so bad at this, but I don't care.
The singing lawyer.
No, I
oh my
loved
goodness.
It. Yeah. The singing lawyer, back again. Another part in this section that I was like, really, guys? Why are y'all bringing Bartise back on my screen right now? Was he really the person that had to ask the married couples who was going to have the first official Love is Blind baby? Why? Why couldn't we just have Vanessa, like she always does every season, ask, when are you going to make me Auntie Vanessa? I'm like, really? Gosh. Bartise?
You know,
why are you guys treating me like that?
I don't know why they didn't hook me up here. I know that Nancy was in attendance. I wanted a camera on Nancy's reaction when Bartise pops up on the screen. You know she did one of these and like shot herself backwards. Like, come on, man. That's what I want to see. Show me Nancy's reaction.
Right.
Oh my gosh. I don't know why. He's had too much airtime. He was on when he came on Perfect Match, I was like, why? I was so aggravated when he was on Perfect Match. You know, and he's got a cute
and there's
baby,
some kind of timeline we need to you know, there's a timeline we need to uncover with the baby and when
I know that happened
film, but you know, anyway, we digress
yeah.
What did you think of their, I mean, I just was like, why did you guys ask them that? Because like, how are they supposed to respond? I mean, of course they want to have kids, but it's just like, I mean, we've only known each other for like a year, like what do you expect?
The thing is, like, they're learning everything about each other. They're learning who got bullied in high school, why they got bullied in high school, who's the favorite aunt, why somebody doesn't talk to their family. They're learning all of the details that, like, make you a person at your core. So, like, why are we putting them on blast and rushing them to make babies? Like, it's amazing that we even had the turnout that we did this season. Like, I think it's amazing even if you get one couple, let alone, and I mean, it's one thing if you playfully ask 3 couples. That is crazy. It's one thing if you playfully ask about the babies. Also, you know that they're getting it in their day-to-day life. Like, just stop. You know, it's fine. And she pick one point in the special to make the joke. I mean, at the end, I was like, by the end, I was like, she needs to go adopt a kid or something. Like, somebody needs to help her out. Nick, what are you doing? Like, you might need a surrogate. Right. You know, I don't know.
Listen,
it was a lot.
Yeah. Learning it says Vanessa needs to stop asking about babies. When they are ready, they will share the news. And I agree. I think it's just really awkward. It's not like she hadn't kind of already mentioned it maybe 2 times before they got to that part of the reunion. And
it was a bunch.
I mean, goodness gracious. I think even the part that it made it really cringy because Zack and Bliss kind of played it off really well, or Bliss mainly, but Bliss was just like, I mean, we do everything fast. We got engaged in like 2 weeks and whatever. I can't wait to have his babies, but not right now, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And then Vanessa was like, oh, well, you don't do everything fast, right? Wink, wink. I was like, is she saying what I'm thinking she's saying? Why would she say that?
She insinuated a few things. What? I can't think of them off the top of my head, but throughout this special that I was just like,
yes, she did.
What are you doing? Like, where? What? Like, what?
Doing?
What are you doing? What? I don't get it. I don't get
Bliss
it.
Paid it. Yeah, I don't get it. Bliss played it off really well. Like, oh, yeah, girl, we don't have any problems with that. But anyway, and they just kind of laughed it off, and I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
Goodness gracious. On that note, though, let's just go ahead and talk about this and get to the next part. We have to just we've been circling around this all panel.
Yeah.
How did Nick and Vanessa do as hosts? We were talking about it in our last panel. We want to see them improve. So with this reunion, how do you think that they did? What are some things that you think they need to improve on? And then give me a little rate of the reunion from 1 to 10, maybe. Just throw that in at the end.
Okay. If I forget that, just remind me. Because I have a tangent.
I'll remind you. Yeah, I said a lot. I asked you a lot of questions.
So
Go ahead.
here's my deal. It's kind of like what I said earlier. At the end of the day, there's a difference between a moderator and like somebody who's interviewing. I think that maybe Nick and Vanessa are better served for just the sole purpose of doing an interview, if anything at all. I don't think for moderating, though, that it's really the style. I also feel like there's no balance of Nick and Vanessa whatsoever. I kind of actually liked what Nick was chiming in and saying more throughout this reunion. Also, he made a comment about Vanessa's side note, like, he made a comment when she said about Tiffany waking up like a princess. He said, oh, she wakes up in the morning like a villain. It makes you want to run, or something like that. You guys have to go back and watch that part. I was like, I think Nick wants out of his marriage. Go back and watch that part. I think that they're just like, I think that, I don't know. I don't feel like he's into her very much. I think she's into him. But I don't know. So I think that they might need to sort it out. I don't feel like he is. Like, every time that they're talking about love, it's always Nick just sitting there like he's at a baseball game, just looking like he's just fulfilling his obligation. And then I feel like Vanessa's always just overstepping and just overspeaking. And I just feel like Vanessa was so aggressive for some reason. I feel like she had clearly her favorites. The favorites weren't even the audience's favorite. At least make the favorites, if you're going to have bias, at least make it be the bias that lines up with the audience. You know, I feel like her bias, it just wasn't working. I think that the moderators should be very objective. And at the end of the day, I think that I think that there's better options out there. Hollywood has a lot of great hosts. Let's get somebody else in at this point. Exactly. They've done it for a few seasons now, and they're getting the same feedback every single time, you know? And it's like, it's not a knock even towards... Time. Yeah, it's not a knock towards Nick and Vanessa. Maybe they're just not cut out to do this type of host work, which is fine. Not every host can do every type of hosting, you know? So get somebody like an Andy Cohen who can like just come in and be objective and like and moderate, you know? It's kind of like directing traffic. Like have somebody hold their thought and then have somebody else speak up and then hold their thought and then get that other person that's dying to say something. Yeah, it's hard.
Yes.
So
it's that, you gotta watch people's reactions, which sometimes they do, and then sometimes they don't, and it's sorry, go ahead, let me let you finish.
No, and then as far as a rating, I'll be honest, I would give this like a 6 or 7 out of 10. I was underwhelmed by everything. I felt like a lot of it was very confusing. I felt like there was no moderating done, and I feel like we touched on a lot of things that we didn't know about, so even necessarily giving the reunion a 6 or 7 isn't 100% where I stand. It's more or less like, I feel like the editing kind of messed everybody up. I think that we were left in the dark about a lot of things. Or they were bringing up a lot of things that didn't matter and they just got brought up and were rehashed. I just feel like there was a lot of behind the scenes stuff and off camera stuff that we didn't know about. And I couldn't tell you right now whether that's good or bad. I still have to think on that one. But yeah. Like 6 or 7 out of 10.
For sure.
And the fact that it wasn't live just brings it down a notch too. Like, come on, you know, I was so excited.
Okay. So that's what I was going to say. So let me jump in there. So for me, 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10 because of the huge mishap of Sunday. It brings it down a whole rating. I was going to give it a 4, but I'm going to give them some points for just trying to do something different. And at least for me, Zack and Bliss, their whole vindicating with Irina definitely they had that for me. There were some good points, but it gets a 5 because to me, it's like, it was so frustrating for so many people like us even who, I mean, this is a part of what we do is cover shows like this. So we had our whole schedules around watching it at a certain time, and I had to switch around so much of my day to day just to watch it in the middle of the day to come on here with you guys and talk. And it's just like, that's very frustrating. And then to watch it and be like dissatisfied after a year of you shot this a year ago, you had months to prepare live. It's frustrating. And then let's get into Nick and Vanessa. I think that they, again, like I said last week, I don't think they've proven themselves to be invaluable to this show. I think they're very misplaced as hosts. I think Nick is a better host than Vanessa when it comes to filming the show itself. He's a good prop transitional piece. Vanessa always feels like she's just too much energy sometimes for the moment. It's like, is this girl okay? Did take a shot or something before she came up here? Like,
I feel
calm
like she
down.
thinks
Take
she's
it down a
part of
couple
the
notches.
cast, you know?
I don't know why
Does
she
that
gets so
make sense?
overhyped, and it's just like, yeah, I think I do know what you mean. I feel like she just is like, know your place a little bit. But when it comes
Yeah.
to reunion shows, I don't think I don't think they have the skills to do the job, which it's a very, very hard job to do. Either that or the production doesn't set them up very well.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's like you said, I agree with you. It's been 4 seasons now. I don't really think they did a little bit better than last year. Had some pushback for certain people, but they don't even have like the it factor of when when you watch a host like do an interview at a reunion show, like a Andy Cohen or I can't remember some of the people I remember from other reality shows, but it's like they have this thing to them that I don't know, they have an edge to that they bring as a moderator, and I don't feel that.
Yeah.
But let us know, guys, in the comment section what your thoughts are on Nick and Vanessa at this point. Are you over them? Like, it just, even the structure of how they do it, it just feels really off. And speaking of structure, I want to ask you one more question before we wrap up. So now that we've seen this whole season and that it's over, kind of similar to the last question I asked about the reunion, tell me a couple things that you think the show could improve on for future seasons to just kind of make it a little better. For instance, there were a lot of things that we didn't see, right? So what are you kind of thinking about that?
My biggest thing, first of all, I do want to say, I know that we've been a little bit constructive with the show and with the hosts and everything. I do love this show. This is my favorite reality show to watch by far. And I think that overall, like, the casting is fairly done. I think that we've always, even if we don't like somebody, right? Casting is casting at the end of the day. They can't cast they can't cast a cast of all Marshalls. They can't. Otherwise, you don't have a show. You don't. So at the end of the day, I do like the fact that this show exists. I really enjoy it. I would just like for them to really think about the editing. And I understand at the end of the day, it's a reality show. You literally sign up to put yourself on blast. I'm not even coming to the defense of the cast necessarily. It's just more or less like, I think that the editing to tell the story and telling the truth needs to kind of meet in the middle a little bit more. I think that they were way too focused. Yeah, they were way too focused on a good story and a good show. And the good story and the good show was still there, even with the stuff that they cut out. That's the problem. If the editing has to be done, and you're eliminating good parts, then what the heck? If you're eliminating the parts that aren't necessary, then cool, get rid of them. Again, that's the beauty of editing. That's the whole point of a reality show. But like, don't cut out the parts that are good. Like, I love that conversation between Micah and Chelsea. I don't know why that didn't make it. I really don't know why. Somebody might have dropped the ball on that one and might be hearing about that from Netflix, because that was a good scene that they cut out.
Oh, we found this in the archives. You can show this.
Yeah, it's like, I feel like you shouldn't be pulling anything out to show at the reunion like that. If the things like the DMs and the little things like Irina DMing Bliss saying that she dodged a bullet with Zack, those are the things that we should be finding out at the reunion, not pieces of the story that helped to tell the story.
Just didn't. Yes.
What about you?
Totally agree. I think that, to your point, it's the edit, but it's not just the edit. I think that they need to stop. Maybe the problem is they keep filming multiple seasons at the same time or around the same time.
Focus.
Because to me, it's like there's a lot of focus and zero in, because there's so many. I think it's not just the edit. I think there's just days that they're just not filming things. So there's just things that they just genuinely didn't even capture, which I find frustrating. And I found that frustrating on The Ultimatum, which is from obviously the same production company. And so I think they need to like kind of really hone in on that. And I also want to see if they're going to have Nick and Vanessa. They're a married couple, right? I think their one asset is that they're a married couple. So the way that they can be valuable is they can be placed throughout the season to be helpful to these people. And maybe that'll help them to be a little bit more aware. You said it actually last week. It's like you'll have a more understanding of what's actually going on and what even the fans want to see, because you saw
You're in it.
Jackie and Marshall in real time, and you heard Marshall's side when he was going through it. If you had
Right.
been there to show up and ask him, I'm not saying you have to be there physically. Like on Married at First Sight, they have the therapists
I love
and people
how
who
they
the
do that
matchmakers
show.
there throughout that.
Yeah.
But take a page out of their book, right? Like be there to help them along the journey, because I think when we circle back to what you said about we can't have a cast of all Marshalls, right? We have so many different kinds of people. Well, it's like even they said it on the reunion. It's like we want to help people grow. We want to show that people
Right.
can, they have all types of arcs and things going on in their lives, and we want to, well then do that. Like help them along the way, and then also hold people accountable, because at the end of the day you are having these story arcs and storylines, right, to your show, reality show or not. But at the end of the day, people making a good show also involves a good ending. And I don't feel like for some of the storylines I had a good ending. There wasn't a resolve. And that's my problem. So it kind of just comes full circle. And I think that they, at this point with 4 seasons in, I think season 5 is already in the can. So I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna get next season. But yeah, what did you think about all that I said?
I agree. You're so cute. I agree with everything that you said. Yeah, I mean, honestly, at this point, just put the hosts in or take them out. No in between. Because even think about it like this. Vanessa could have had an hour alone with Jackie, right? And maybe she didn't have any time with Marshall. It's very easy. She spent that hour with and I'm totally making this up. I'm just giving a hypothetical. It's not like I have any insider knowledge here. I don't. But it's like, think about just like regular everyday life. Like you and I have the opportunity to do this together. Of course, we get along. I love being able to talk to you about stuff like this. You're definitely at the top of my list for wanting to do this again. You know what I mean? Like, it's like when you've established some type of connection with somebody and you like to work with them, or you liked your conversation, that's going to put a ping in your head. Exactly. So for her, if she spent time with Micah or spent time with Jackie, who she seemed to really favor during the show, and she didn't spend time with Paul or Marshall, there's maybe your bias. So again, I think there's more harm being done for the reputation of the hosts, and then translating it out to the cast, and then even how everybody perceives everything, and then hates maybe going in the wrong directions. It's like it isn't a good look. Either have them fully submerged in the process or remove them altogether. I don't even think you need them at this point. I just don't. Totally. Like you said, the only accolade that they have is they're a married couple in Hollywood, agree. Which is rare, but like maybe find another one. I don't know. Yeah.
Listen, so. I agree. And I'm going to answer something else you said. But before I do, I want to give everyone their last chance to go ahead and send in some questions. Any last final comments before we wrap our panel? Because we want to make sure we get all of your thoughts in there and we discuss everything with you guys here live while we're still live and still up here. But okay, back to what you said real quick, because it was so good. I think at this point, do we need them? Do we need, oh my gosh, Nick and Vanessa, I almost forgot their names. Do we even need Nick and Vanessa at this point? Because like I've seen other seasons of, it wasn't Love is Blind, but I think it was, because I watch all these shows, I think it was the French version of The Ultimatum. And there were clearly hosts, but the hosts are never shown. And honestly, the show kind of went on fine. So I don't know. I'm like, at this point, if you're not going to put them in and have them involved, then just go ahead and take them out, because it feels really jarring and really like hokey to place them like, oh, we're here at the fittings. And it's like, okay, but y'all don't really know anything about what's been going on with them. When you really could, if I love the scenario that you built of like Jackie sitting down with Vanessa in real time. Like if the cast felt like they could call Nick when Marshall is going through, Marshall left for 3 days. Why couldn't Marshall feel like he could call Nick and ask him for his help? Like, man, I'm really going through with Jackie right now. Yeah. I need some advice. Like, that's a production problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have
and show that even, like that could be part of an episode.
Show us that.
I'd love to see that.
Exactly.
I'd love to know some person's advice on dating. That's everybody at the end of the day. If you're dating and you're in a relationship, you're looking for advice on how to not lose the relationship. If you are single, you're looking for advice on how to get in a relationship. That's kind of just the human condition.
Right.
Right. So like
Yes.
advice is always welcomed. I feel like that's a medium that they need to entertain. Get the host, and if the hosts aren't experts, then get experts. Call in Dr. Viviana from Married at First Sight. Let's go. You know, like do what you gotta do.
Yes.
I love
Oh my
Dr.
gosh,
Viviana.
we're gonna text about Married at First Sight after this.
Oh yeah.
I love this idea from IMO Blessing. She said,
yes.
First of all, thank you so much for the super chat. Love that. We love that over here. Appreciate your giving us super chat. So she said they should have let the audience ask questions. My goodness. What a thought. What a comment. What an idea. Genius.
Yeah.
Because I think that would have
Genius.
allowed for us as viewers, as watchers at home, to feel like, yes, thank you. You're asking something that I want to know, and brought some points home that we wanted, or questions that we wanted actually answered.
I love that.
Because otherwise it's like we talked about that. We were like, oh, I wonder if they're going to have a live audience, right? And then they did, and it definitely added to some of the atmosphere, right? Like there were moments where Irina was kind of choking up. People were kind of laughing at her. It was kind of
I heard that.
Yeah. Did you hear that?
I did.
Whew. So imagine if some of those kind of people were walking up to the mic and asking some questions, you know?
Arjun's comment. I can't. I'm gonna cry.
Oh, I know. Nick Lachey is Vanessa's pet. Yikes. Thoughts on that? Please, Hannah is weak. Oh no.
Arjun, listen.
You guys are hilarious.
Whoo! You should have made me wear waterproof
Hannah,
before you come in with that comment. You know, I'm afraid that, I hope that that's not the dynamic. I hope that that's not the dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
That was.
You want to read this next one?
I don't like the way, this is, Swati Dash says, I don't like the way Vanessa attacks the contestants. I like Nick's energy, though. I agree. I don't think that they work as a cohesive couple on screen when they're moderating like that. I think that Nick is always on the right track. And I think that Vanessa always comes in and kind of takes the wheel and accelerates the gas when she doesn't need to. LOL, Nick looks afraid.
Yeah.
I'm afraid that I kicked this up. I'm afraid that I did this. You know?
I think you did. I think you started some kind of trend here.
You guys?
No, I love that last comment though. I love what you said because I feel like here's the difference, right, guys? I think the difference is that the tone in which Vanessa says things sometimes. It's what she says a lot of the time, but it's also the tone.
Mm-hmm.
There's a condescension there sometimes. There's too much inflection. There's too much like, you know, impassioned stuff. And when it's just like, just ask the question and relax. Like Nick has a way of kind of calmly saying, well, also, you know, I'm going to push back here just to be fair, X, Y, and Z, right? Whereas Vanessa, well, don't you think that blah, 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 blah. It's like,
well, and
it just gets icky. It's like, read the room.
Tone
you
is,
know?
Your tone is going to affect the answer that they're giving too, because if that's like, if you ask me a question and if you feel some kind of way about it, I'm sorry, I'm human. I'm going to adjust what I'm going to say based off of how you spoke to me. You know, if I can tell that you don't like something, I'm not going to sit here and be like, me just being me, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, Kayla, that's not it at all. Listen, actually, it's this way. Like, chances are you're going to have some type of impact on how you get an answer from that person. So you, especially, again, a skill set for being a moderator is you have to pull yourself out and zoom out and be objective. And like Nick does, he mentioned the DM. He knew that piece of information. He knew when to ask that. He knew when to play that card. You know, but he didn't say it even with really any type of tone. He just said, this is a good time. Let me just bring this up and see where you throw it out there like a basketball and you see where it lands. And that's what it is. And that's how you should moderate.
And there were oftentimes, totally agree. And I totally agree. And I think there were often times where Vanessa kind of would get in the way. Like Nick found the right the right timing to go ahead and ask, like, well, there was also the. And he's like, well, let me say this, because Vanessa starts talking, and he's like, well, let me say this, hold on a second, because, you know, the cast member just gave me a hook that I can get into right now, and it's the perfect timing. Don't throw me off, you know? And so I hate that we have to harp on Vanessa like this, because I you know, I think that as an actress and as, like, she's clearly has such a big personality, and she's beautiful, and she seems like a nice woman, but she just bugs me sometimes with these reunion shows where I'm like,
I feel like also because of how often she's involved in the show, I think that think about it just from being a human. Think about it from that perspective, right? I'm still crying from those comments. Think about it from being, like, just a human, right? If I'm involved in a project and I'm heavily involved in the reunion, you know, I try to think about, like, being in her shoes. Is she thinking that this reunion is potentially, I don't want to say her reunion, but is she thinking that this reunion, you know, this is where she has the most skin in the game. This is where she gets the most airtime. Does she think that maybe this reunion is a little bit about her and how much she's opening her mouth, you know? And again, no shade unto Vanessa as a human in the entertainment industry. I'm just solely looking at the context of Love is Blind and being one of the hosts on Love is Blind. I just think that maybe because she's so heavily involved in this particular part of the process, there might be a little bit of, well, I have to make up for all of the stuff that I missed, which, again, production, either submerge them or yank them out, you know? Because it's probably unclear to her. She feels like it's her reunion, but it's not her reunion, and who's to say?
It's her,
you know?
one shot to get as much screen time. I think that's a great point, and I think where my brain goes after you said that was, like, you know, also this Love is Blind kind of revived Nick Lachey's fame, but it gave Vanessa Lachey fame, period. I think we probably, you know, people watching were probably like, oh, I've seen her before, maybe because she's an actress and she's done some roles and some work for a while. Yeah, but she's not like a, you know, I can't think of anybody right now, but she's not as well known is what I was going to say. And so I think that maybe she's excited. I'm not trying to get down on her about it. I think she's excited that this is Love is Blind, and she feels like she's got a lot of skin in the game. She's got a lot of stake in this being kind of her show. What makes her, you know, kind of her
she's passionate
claim to fame a little bit.
You can't say she's not passionate. You know,
you can't say she's not passionate, and I love that. I think it just needs to be she needs to be produced a little bit better, and I think she could do with just really honing in a little bit more. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens next season. I'm not sure if we have a release date for season 5. I mean, obviously season 4 just wrapped, but we will be here talking about it here on Shared News. Thank you guys so much for being here live with us today. Hannah, thank you for being such a great co-host. Like, you were just the best.
You are too.
I love working with you.
Yeah.
Yes. Aww. I love talking with you. I know we'll text even more after this about you know, other stuff that bugged us about this about this reunion and Married at First Sight. But that wraps up our panel today on this season of Love is Blind. Again, thank you for watching. If you are still here with us live, and if you are rewatching this, thank you for watching. And don't forget, before you go, to give this video a like. Before you head out too, if you were new, make sure you subscribe to Shared News and hit the bell for notifications, because we do panels like this all the time. We talk reality TV, we talk pop culture, we talk movies, music, everything, so you don't want to miss out. But once again, I'm Kayla Thompson, joined today by Hannah Fletcher. Make sure you come follow us. Our social media handles are on the screen right now. We'd love to connect with you guys, so come say what's up. But thank you again for the third time for watching, and we'll see you very, very soon. Bye, guys.